that's why I always talk about global warming. That's what the world's got more people in it. So those are 1.6 heaters. It's more oaks.
I know. Look at all these things. Oh, I know. Just you figure out who's related to who. And
Yeah.
well, I'm sure you know.
Where do you go? I'm going to call this meeting of the Monongalia County Board of Education to order. I'm going to ask Ethan and Hunter to lead us in the pledge this evening.
Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you, gentlemen. I'm going to start tonight's meeting with a couple resolutions. Our first one is American Education Week, which is November 14th through the 18th, 2022. Whereas American Education Week began in 1921 as a week observed in all communities annually for the purpose of informing the public of the accomplishments and needs of the public schools and to secure cooperation and support of the public in meeting those needs, and whereas the demands on public schools have increased over the years as communities, business and industry, and higher education expect our students to graduate with knowledge, skills, and habits to be college and career ready. And whereas meeting those demands begins with our public school teachers who devote their lives to their students, teaching them content knowledge woven in opportunities to develop skills and habits that allow them to succeed, including being able to think creatively and critically, collaborate, communicate, accept responsibility, and persevere when faced with the inevitable challenges in life. And whereas public schools are more successful when parents and family members feel welcome at school, are active partners in their children's education, and join with teachers, administrators, educational support personnel, and other school staff members on working towards student success and advocating for the needs of public schools. And whereas public education requires the support and investment of our communities and elected leaders at the local and state levels to provide adequate funding that ensures strong educational outcomes for all students. Therefore, be it resolved that the week of November 14th through the 18th, 2022 be declared American Education Week, a time to support public education and honor the individuals who are working in our schools to ensure every child graduates college and career ready. Our second resolution tonight is National School Psychology Week. Whereas children and youth learn best when they're healthy, supported, and receive an education that enables them to thrive academically, socially, and emotionally. And whereas schools can more effectively ensure that all students are able to learn when they meet the needs of the whole child and provide integrated, multi-tiered supports. And whereas children's mental health is directly linked to their learning and development, and the learning environment provides an optimal context to promote good mental health through connectedness with the school and community. And whereas positive educational and social outcomes are possible for all children and youth, regardless of background and identity, only when they feel safe, supported, and affirmed by their community and schools within it. And whereas school psychologists take steps to foster a school climate that is supportive, inclusive, safe, accepting, and respectful towards all persons, particularly those who need additional supports and have experienced marginalization in educational settings. And whereas sound psychological principles are integral in instruction and learning, school safety, social and emotional development, prevention, early intervention, and support of culturally diverse student populations. And whereas school psychology has more than 60 years of well-established, widely recognized, and highly effective practice and standards that are clearly articulated in NASP model for comprehensive and integrated school psychology services. And whereas school psychologists are specially trained to foster and deliver in the school and community a continuum of mental health services and academic supports that lower barriers to teaching and learning. And whereas school psychologists help children thrive in nurturing their individual strengths across both personal and academic endeavors. And whereas school psychologists are trained to assess students in school-based barriers to learning and individual strengths, utilize database decision-making, implement research-driven prevention and intervention strategies, and evaluate outcomes and improve accountability. Whereas Mon County schools should recognize the vital role that school psychologists play in the personal and academic development of our nation, state, and town's children. Therefore, I, Ron Lytle, Monongalia County Board of Education President, do hereby proclaim November 7th through the 11th as School Psychology Week in Monongalia County, West Virginia, and commend observance to all of our citizens.
That's a lot of whereas.
Thank you for your patience.
President Lytle,
Yes, ma'am.
may I introduce
Absolutely.
our coordinator of psychological services, Angela Hayes, and also if she would introduce two of our psychologists that are with us this evening.
Yeah, thank
I would
you.
appreciate the break, actually.
That was, yes, take a breather.
Yes.
Good job, President Lytle. I'm Angela Hayes, the coordinator of psychological service. This is my third year, but first time in person to do this proclamation, so it's really exciting to be here in this position all the years that you have recognized this week. So Gina Romay is first-year school psychologist, many-year teacher, special education teacher. Andrew Woolwine, I won't put a number, but many years of a school psychologist. So two members of our 10-person department. So happy to have them represent us tonight and just to illustrate how important school psychologists are to the system as a whole. We work to do all of those things that you said every day. So thank you so much.
Thank you for coming tonight. Okay, moving on to an in memoriam for, I'm going to ask a moment of silence for Jean Riley, a former teacher who died on October 18th, 2022, and for Sam Larsock, a bus operator who died on October 22nd, 2022, and for Ida Oseki, a former bus operator who died on October 23rd, 2022. Moment of silence, please. Thank you. All right, Superintendent. Moving on to school performance, student outcomes, and academics. Academic update, and specifically technology.
Yep, our first academic up tonight is going to be around the concept of technology. We have several members of a special program that we started this year at MTech, and they're going to share what they're working on in that new program. So, welcome, Chris.
Thank you. Good evening. I am here to give you a tiny snapshot of what the Office of Technology does, because everybody assumes it's just about Chromebooks or desktops, but there's so much more that's involved. It's the boring part of this technology session or portion, because the exciting part I'm going to save the best for last, which is the class that we have at MTech. So we'll let them talk. I don't want to give away too much because I'm so proud of them and how they have represented Monongalia County already, but we'll get to that. So I'm going to start with the handout that I gave you. On the back, there is, share with you that I have 6 technicians. They are located here at the board office. They have their own work area in the back. I have 18 ed tech leaders, 1 for each school. I put myself at the bottom because I can't do what the technicians do. I cannot configure routers, do the cabling and all that, all the stuff that they do. I also am no longer, directly involved with teaching teachers, so I need those ed techs in the schools that have that content. I put myself at the bottom because I feel like I want to support and empower these people to do what's right, because they do it for the kids, they do it for the staff, they do it for the teachers, and so I want to make sure that everybody gets their needs met. And I could not have done that. When I started, there were only 3. We were TISs back then, but there were only 3 for the county. And to date, there are still counties out there that have 1 or 2 for their entire county. So with your support, it's been huge. It's a vision that I'll give Mrs. Talrico credit for. It's been phenomenal. It helps make the teachers' lives easier by having them there, because everything nowadays is driven by technology. If you'll open it up to the center part, it is so hard to pinpoint exactly what my department does. I've kind of split it up a little bit. On the right-hand side, you have hardware. Yes, we have iPads. Yes, we have Chromebooks, laptops, desktops. But notice some of the things that I have highlighted in red. Freezers. Our food freezers now speak to our nutrition Brian Keel, who is the director of child nutrition. Did I say that right? I think.
Yes, you did.
But the freezers are set up now to talk via internet, so that when the temperature hits a certain point as it's going up, he is notified, because that's a lot of money that gets lost when the food gets spoiled. So even freezers. We have light poles. I have that highlighted. I actually received, it's been about 7 or 8 years ago now, but I received an email from the state network engineer who forwarded me an email from the FBI that said that a certain IP address, something in our system, somewhere in the county, was actually being hijacked and being used to send out a lot of spam. It actually ended up being a light pole, the top of the light pole, because they have chips in them. And to find it was like looking for a needle in a haystack. But that just reinforces that just about everything is becoming smart. And that was like 6-7 years ago. The interactive displays, I know that I had 123 of them on the last board agenda. And those are 123 that are replacing projectors in classrooms at the main front of their classroom for presentation stations. Those were being used from my local levy funds. Those were being purchased with my local levy funds. And then I have another 123 that will be coming to you probably within 3 or 4 weeks that is using state tools for schools money. So in the entire county, there will be 246 new displays by the same company that does these. And my biggest fear, and the reason I'm really doing this, is because I can't get projectors anymore. And in the classrooms, a lot of the classrooms, we have either a smart board and a teleboard or an interactive projector that just hangs out from the wall. And I haven't been able to get a projector in probably a year. So that's my biggest fear. Everything is moving to these kinds of interactive displays. So you've seen that come through. On the left-hand side, this is only a portion of the software, the online resources that we have. Right under the word software, I have 911 phone system. That is Carey's Law and the Ray Baum Act. Both of those say that if you have landlines and you have multiple offices, every landline has to be able to call out 911 directly. You cannot have to dial 9 first and then 911. It all has to go out. And what's really cool, it used to be up until last year, it was myself, one of my technicians, and Adam Hankins who would receive texts when a 911 call was placed. This year, not only do the 3 of us get them, but also the school's principal and assistant principals. They all get notified if there's a 911 call placed from anywhere in their building, which is huge. Sorry. In that next box, I have some things that other people may be using that we are helping sustain. Health Office is used by the nurses to maintain their information. FleetSoft is used by transportation, and we help them with that. Primero Edge School Cafe is for the lunch program. Incident IQ, which is our work order system for technology and for maintenance. And you can see some of the other things that we use. The next box down, the first thing, textbooks, is misleading because it looks like we only have 7 different textbooks. But when you multiply each one of those by 12 and then add it up, and this doesn't even include all the different areas when you get into high school, like chemistry, splitting all those apart because they all have different textbooks. So we probably support anywhere between 100 and 150 different textbooks. They all are online. We've got BookFlix and MyOn. Both of those are reading programs. The kids can read whether they're at home or whether they're at school. The Follett, the library system. Adobe Suite, huge. Adobe Suite has 22 different applications within it. Photoshop, everybody's heard of Photoshop. So this is used in some of the art classes. It's got Premiere, which is video editing. It's got Flash. It's got Dreamweaver, which is used to build a website. But there are a total of 22, not just the PDF maker, which most of our secretaries and administrators use. So the Adobe Suite is huge. The little box with the robot, those are all our different robotics kits that we help, because not only do the majority of these connect to the internet, they have to connect to the internet in order to operate them. So we have to support their connection to the internet. Lego Mindstorm is huge. There are competitions that go with it. I know University High has a big project that they do with Lego, with all the different Legos. Westwood has a Lego team, so they use the Mindstorm. We've got 3D printers down there. Every school has at least one 3D printer. Some have more. So there's a lot going on. The 2 biggies at the bottom, we've got the Google Workspace for Education, and we've got the Microsoft Office 365, which both consist of Microsoft Word, Excel, PowerPoint, all those different office tools that everybody needs. So we've got a ton of stuff going on. I provided on the other side some of the reasons we chose Chromebooks. And the biggest reason has to do with the accessibility tools. There are tools that every child, every adult can utilize, and you can look down there, text to speech, type with your voice. Turning on the display, so some people don't like white on black, they prefer black on white, but you could change the contrast. So those are some of the different accessibility tools that will help students. And then on the back again, at the bottom, current and future projects. Those are a list of the ones that I could think of on the spot, but I left 2 blank down at the bottom because there's always something being added to it, which is awesome. I do work directly with the director of exceptional students, so that if we have students who have specific needs, such as maybe a vision student who can see but needs it magnified. So we have touch Chromebook screens, touch Chromebooks. We also use iPads. It's whatever is best for the child. I worked with the OT and the PT folks because they have some students that have specific needs. And I try to meet whatever is needed for the student, because that's the priority. I do want to say thank you at the top there, because we couldn't do what we do if the Office of Technology was not supported. I'm thankful that you, I know I send you large orders, but I'm very appreciative. One of the reasons I've been doing that in the last 2 years is because you never know from day to day what you're going to get with technology. You know, for a while, chips were hard to come by, so we couldn't buy computers. We tried to set up this class 2 years ago, but chips you couldn't find them. I mean, unless you wanted to pay $4,000 or $5,000 for a chip, or even other computer parts. But we're always in need of something, and I never want to leave a classroom teacher without, or a student without Other than the projectors, I think I've done very well. But that's been the latest thing as far as not being able to provide a fix for a projector. If it's a light bulb, we can do that. But for the most part, they're dying right and left. They've been really good. But other than that, you know, you may see cords, you may see cables, you may see SSD drives, which are hard drives. Whatever's on there, I thank you for your support because I never ever want to leave any teacher, student, could be a cook, it could be a custodian, they all have Chromebooks. I don't want to leave anybody hanging, for lack of a better way of saying it. Are there any questions for me before I turn over the fun part? I know several of you have been to see Miss Barlow.
I just wanted to ask, I know we're replacing Chromebooks on a cycle. So when is our next big cycle?
2 years.
And how are they holding up?
They're holding up great. They really are. I mean, I'm not gonna lie, there are issues, but they are holding up better than they have. I think teachers, I think the biggest change is kids are now realizing they don't want to be without, so they take better care of them because all the teachers use them. And that's kind of been a mind shift in the last 2 years. So yeah, we still have issues. I mean, I got an email from a parent that said, I ran over my son's Chromebook. I'm like, oops. So, you know, we never hold anything against a student. If something happens, we replace it, we fix it. It may take a few days to get back, but we're in a good place.
Because it used to be such an issue because there were never enough people to work on any of our technology, and it seemed like there was just piles and stacks, and you've really gotten it down to a
Well,
science.
and I have to brag about my ed techs then, because some of my ed techs in the last 2 years have trained a little. North, for example, calls them his tech tribe. So he has like 4 or 5 students that actually can come. They can replace the screen. They can reset the Chromebook, and it's a fun thing for them to do. And they fix a lot of issues themselves there. And there are a couple of the other ed techs that are starting it this year, and I'm really excited because you're looking at 4th and 5th graders, and it's helped immensely. And in those cases, turnaround time is really quick. Our last set of Chromebooks that we got rid of, we're talking so 6,000 Chromebooks. We were able to harvest every single screen from them and keep them. So we have 6,000 screens that fit perfectly into the new ones. So I don't have to buy screens. It's really been great.
Thank you.
Mr. Eric?
Yeah, have we thought about consolidating, going all Google instead of Microsoft here? I mean, you got Google Classroom that we could use in place of Schoology. I mean, I don't know, is Schoology are there more bells and whistles with that compared to Google Classroom?
The Schoology is just pretty much a grading and lesson plan platform.
You can't do that in Google Classroom?
Google Classroom, you can't really do grades, and they won't talk back to Weavis, whereas Schoology talks to Weavis.
They're doing that, it's speaking now? Because they were
It
having
is
trouble
now,
with it.
yes.
Okay,
It is now, yeah.
all right.
Yes, and then the difference between Google and Microsoft, Google is local. We went with that because of the Chromebooks. Microsoft is a state initiative. I don't even know if that's the right word, but the state pushes and has pushed since 20 years ago, they've pushed the Microsoft platform. So that came first. The good thing again is that on a Chromebook you can do either.
Right.
Doesn't matter which. And I think we're doing the kids justice by having them learn both, because they'll learn 3 or 4 of those different things. So the kids will easily pick up on things and make it work for themselves.
Thank you.
All right, so Miss Bridget Barlow, our wonderful teacher at MTech, with our esports and multimedia class. I have to say, I knew she was the right person for this position, not only back in May when she presented that wonderful Minecraft project that she did with Brookhaven Elementary students, where first graders all the way up through fifth grade participated in building the building inside of Minecraft. But I really knew it when she showed me a picture, sorry, I'm gonna embarrass you. When she showed me a picture of a bookshelf, her bookshelf at home, that's like 5 shelves high, and she has every single Nintendo Game Boy on it. We're talking every single one. I owned one tan one. I didn't know there was a green one. I didn't know there was a blue one, but she has every single one. And I thought, you know, she scaffolds the kids, their lessons. She's phenomenal. And she likes Nintendo Game Boys, which I wish I still had mine to give to her. But I also want to say that on the front, I included the picture of Dr. Campbell and Mrs. Walker when they were at the Education Alliance, and their certificates came from the Education Alliance. So we're going to have to give them their certificate for participating in that. But these 4, and there's 2 of them here this evening, but these 4, I've enjoyed watching them come out of their shells. And even though Hunter doesn't want to speak, he still has grown so much within the classroom, and that's what we want to see. So I'm going to turn it over to Bridget and let her take over.
Hi, everyone. My boys are going to pass you out a pamphlet that we gave out at the Education Alliance Conference so you guys can kind of see a little bit about what we're all about and what this program is all about. So I just wanted to kind of start this off by telling you guys a little bit more about me. I have a great passion for video games. I could stand up here and ramble to you guys for hours about why they're awesome and why I think they're great for everyone and everyone should give them a shot, but I will not do that. I will tell you that mixing video games with my passion for teaching it's been a tremendous start of the year. We started the year with not really fully knowing where we were going to take this program, kind of what it was going to look like. It really genuinely was a pilot program. So we started out the year, the kids came in with high hopes of what we were going to do and all the games we were going to play. We set up some PCs. We actually tore down old school PCs, so they got to learn about all the components that were inside of a computer, and then they also got to learn how to put them all back together. They learned what they do, how they operate in a computer system, and how to troubleshoot for that specific piece of the computer. So within the first couple weeks, all of my students were able to identify parts of a computer and how they work together and how they help us game. So as we learned that kind of stuff, I started to see a higher interest in school. They were more interested in going to school and participating and showing up at MTech. It was really just a phenomenal start of the school year. And I have to say this is all due to the foresight of Miss Tallarico. This would have never happened had she started to do this a couple years ago to kind of get this in the running. And I'm so appreciative for the board standing behind us and making sure that we have everything we need to make this happen. The classroom, because of Miss Urban and the tech guys, is state of the art. We are operating with top tier technology, things that you just never would expect to see in a school system, and the students are able to work hand in hand with that and to develop themselves as learners and humans and in the future as workers and people in the workforce. So I am going to tell you guys a little bit about the program and what we do. We were already invited to the Education Alliance, as we previously mentioned, where we ran into Dr. Campbell and Nancy Walker. The students were, of course, very nervous. I was very nervous. It was our first trip out, and we were 3 months old at that point, so it was very fresh for all of us. But as I watched them talk to people and just interact with everyone, I saw their passion grow. And I hear their passion grow every single day for gaming, and it connects directly back into their education. I know some of you who don't know what gaming is, or who think that gaming is just more screen time, or that it's just a mindless activity that kids do, may not really understand the benefits of a class like this in our school system. But these students are learning how to be team players. They're learning how to collaborate. They're learning how technology works and how it will benefit them later in their lives. They're learning how they can grow as a member of a team and also be a leader of that team at the same time. So, and all of this is happening with things that they are interested in and that keep their attention. I'm impressed by them every single day that they come in and they sit down. We have this awesome little beanbag nook, and they sit down and you can hear them coaching each other on how they can make their plays better and how they can develop better team skills. It's so wonderful to see them interact with each other, typically in ways you wouldn't see 4 high school boys interact with each other in a video game setting. So I'm going to hand this over to Ethan Stevens. He said he's used to people asking him questions, but I am going to give him just a couple prompts. I'm going to ask Ethan to talk to you about why this program is important to him and how it will benefit his future. And then I will allow you guys to ask him some questions closer to the end of the presentation. And Hunter is going to come stand next to him. Just nod, smile. Yeah, go ahead. Hi, I'm Ethan.
Hello, everybody. My name is Ethan Stevens. I am a part of this program. So basically, MTech, pretty cool. I go there every even day, and normally when I wake up in the morning, I'm like, oh, I gotta go to school. Well, then now, when it comes down to MTech, I really actually enjoy going to school. There's just this, I get this drive, this willingness to want to actually, try to do what I want to do. And considering how I can have a great future and do multiple things with my life regarding this program, I think it's very beneficial. Why this class has done a lot for me and for people like him. So, because, yes, Hunter. Considering I've seen him talk more than I ever have before in the past few months or however than I have in the past 3 years of knowing him, I think it's really shown that how much this kind of thing could change people. The teamwork and the bonding and all the other things that go along with typical sports or whatever you want to call it can really shine through any form of competitive play or like brotherhood, like bonding thing. And I think it's just pretty cool. Like, that's just the best way I can say it. Like, you're going to learn a lot, you're going to see a lot, you're going to do a lot. We go to MTech, we do our thing, we leave. Like, we go to do what we want, and we go to do this because it can change the future for not only us, but several other people. And the way we can use technology can only bring better things for this world, because the world is changing and technology is not only going to be getting bigger, but everything will warp around it, whether we want it to or not. And I think it's good that people our age are going to be able to learn these things and be able to bring all this to the new world and just make things better. So,
Beautiful.
what else do you want me to say?
Do you have anything else you'd like to say?
I don't know. Want to say something, Hunter?
Yep, you're good. So I will absolutely let you guys ask them some questions here in a little bit. I'll have them gather themselves. But Ethan stated it perfectly. Technology's coming whether we want it to or not. And I think that a class like this allows kids to come to school, be interested in coming to school, and then develop those skills to use technology effectively as a member of society when they become adults. So this class, as we moved on, we found out the state was going to provide us partial funding to purchase a curriculum. So we got this curriculum called Gaming Concepts, and it has mental health moments, because some of you guys who have seen sons, daughters, kids, teenagers, anyone play video games, you may not know the term, but the term is getting tilted, which is when you get really angry while you're playing a video game. So this curriculum teaches these kids how to manage their emotions when they happen, not just for games, but through games. So with something they're interested in, we're teaching them how to manage those emotions that may come up, and how do we work through that, and how do we continue to be a great team player. The curriculum is also STEM accredited, so it's used by many places around. West Virginia adopted this curriculum. There are 30 other schools around there that do something close to what we do, but not near it as intricate, you could say. So this is used all over the nation for classes like this specifically. This teaches us about IT. This teaches us about PC building, teamwork, networking. The kids actually made our jerseys. They didn't make them, but they designed them. They made our name. They've networked for us. We're going to start working on broadcasting and streaming. So they'll learn so many different things throughout the course of this program that we haven't even gotten to yet through the book or with the time that we've had together. So the curriculum is just going to guide us through that. Because this is an elective, we have a potential for a second year to bring the kids back, and there's a Gaming Concepts 2 that goes in depth about PC, network, IT. So it continues e-gaming and esports, but it gives them more in-depth computer building, things like that. So away from kind of the curriculum and into the games, we do 2/3 of the class. The first 2/3 of the class that I have them is very rubric based. We work on, they get a rubric, they complete the projects as assigned. So we've done gaming PC builds where I've given them money and they have to build a computer within that budget, making sure all of the parts work together, everything will fit, and that they've stayed within the budget. We have done a build in Minecraft where they're building a shopping mall and they have to stock their store and figure out how they're going to sell and how they're going to buy, how they're going to keep their store stocked. And that rubric continues throughout the course probably of this year. We'll continue working on that. They'll have to design a jingle and they'll have to have a cool store name. And so that's some of the stuff that we work on at the beginning of class. The second part of class, we use the Nintendo Switches to do Super Smash Brothers. We play a little bit of League of Legends. We play the team-based games that require you to collaboratively work with your team to be successful. I will say at the beginning, we were horrible. We were not good. We lost every game we played, but we are growing. We got into a battle in League of Legends called a team fight, which is where all 5 people on one team come after all 5 people on the other team. So the 5 of us in our classroom, not only were we communicating with each other, I would probably call it more of yelling to each other about, but we successfully won the team fight. And just the cheers in the room showed the growth from the beginning of the year to where we've ended. So just that collaborative teamwork that we do at the end really helps them grow through that as well. And those teamwork-based games we do for the final 1/3 of class, and then they do a portfolio reflection. So every student will leave my classroom at the end of this school year with a portfolio showing their growth through the games that they've played and through the activities that they've done. So they'll have that to add to a college portfolio, to a job resume. They'll have all of that information with them because we build it in. I want you guys to know that my door is always open for anybody who'd like to come visit. If you would like a coaching session, I know this has been offered previously, but if you would like to be coached in Super Smash Brothers, I have 2 students who would be more than happy to show you a little bit of that. They are always excited to teach people how to do things that they're passionate for. I am super excited to see where this program goes in the future. I know that with the technology that we have and the support that we have, we are in the top section of the state for what we're able to provide to our students. And I know that they're grateful just as much as I am, but it's going to be incredible to see where this program goes and where our students are able to go because of this program in the future. Oh yes, I'm sorry. So on my even days, I have these students, and then on my odd days, I actually am pushing out into the middle schools. So I have been to South and to Mountaineer Middle School. I have Suncrest Middle School scheduled. I go out to the middle schools and push in with classes that they have that use 21st century skills or science and STEM-based skills. I've also done the same in elementary schools where I push in and just get them started with Minecraft, show them how it aligns with their standards in a general classroom. This is not anything computer or specific to technology. This aligns with general math, science, reading, English standards that teachers can do. So I've been pushing out on odd days to get into those classrooms to reach those students. And I will say the middle schoolers are very different from my high schoolers. It's taken me a little bit to get used to them. But they are so excited when they come in and they see me there and they know what we're going to do for the day. They immediately sit down, they open their Chromebooks, and they're logged in before I can even tell them the plans for the day. So we're able to reach those kids in elementary and middle school before they have the opportunity to join this class, but they'll know that this class exists in the future. So we can spark their interest and get them moving in the right path for our esports e-gaming program. Do you guys have any questions? For me or for the kids? I can't guarantee you that Hunter will speak, but I bet if you ask him a question, he will. Yes.
I just want to say, when we were at Education Alliance, you could hear people in the room talking about this particular group and this particular presentation. Hunter did speak at the Education Alliance to people individually. I can tell you, I can attest to that, because it was a subject that he was passionate about, and he was able to, and every, the students that you took, everyone realized what they were there to do, which was explain what this was about, tell how they got there. So my question to you is, how many students can we have in this at a time, and how did we recruit the students that we currently have?
So the students that we currently have, actually Ethan was one of my only to begin the class. He saw when this was all pushed out on social media. He saw that pushed out. He and his family sought me out to be in touch because I was trying to figure everything out. He came in and he actually brought Hunter with him. So when he came in, he said, I have a friend who's super interested, and brought Hunter out with him. And from there, we've grown into the 4 that we have this year. I did just last week go to the high schools and recruit. I have 17 applications so far for next year for kids who are interested, and we'll continue to recruit through that. But word of mouth has been the best travel thus far. So I have kids at MTech who have come to me and asked, can I please be in the after school club when it starts? I know I can't leave my class, but I really want to be a part of this. So there are kids who stop by and they want to see the computers, and they know what we're doing, and they see it and they want to be a part of it. So hoping that the recruiting continues as it's gone so far, I could see us, there are 12 computers in the classroom. Not every student needs to be on the computer all the time. There's so much more to this class than just sitting in front of a computer. I think that 12 would be very comfortable because we would have computers for everyone, but we could see up to 20 kids in a class if we had the interest to pull that in there, because you can have 12 kids gaming, you can have 8 kids reading into the strategy that they're using, or shoutcasting them, which is almost like a sports broadcaster yelling what's happening in the game. You can have them analyzing their skills and where they're slipping up and what those other things that they're showing. So anywhere from 12 to 20, with 12 being the ideal number. You have to have 5 to have a team. So right now I am our 5th during class, but after school we will absolutely have enough kids to have teams to compete. So we want minimum base 5, but 12 would be awesome. Absolutely. In our after school program, we're going to open up to be able to participate from home. So whenever we set that up, the kids who have computers and devices at home that will allow them to join us will be able to do that. And then as time progresses on, they can come in and join us in person if that allows.
Thank you.
Yep, no problem. Anybody else? Questions?
I want to hear Hunter tell me what his favorite part of the school year has been so far, because I want to hear what his voice sounds like.
It's definitely been the MTech program. My favorite thing was probably building and learning about the computers and like taking them apart, like knowing what each component does, and then like putting the computer all back together. That was probably the most fun in class that I've done so far.
I'm curious, what are your plans after high school?
Currently, I'm not like too sure, but with this class, I could go into like working in like IT or like helping people with computers.
Big market for that, I know.
Yeah.
Ethan, what about you?
I have so much on my plate, I can hardly even think what I'm going to do next week.
And these kids are in 11th grade, mind you, and they have this. So.
That sounds like a future superintendent of schools.
I'm thinking probably something with computers or something music. Literally, I do not know, but whatever gets done, I'm pretty much okay with. I know this class will kind of help me one way or another.
I visited them in the classroom, and Ethan told me that he's actually making money now playing games, which is amazing. So can you tell us a little bit about how that works?
Well, actually it's a long story, but
Give us the bullet point.
yeah. So
Let Hunter tell it.
So basically, I play this little game called Overwatch. Pretty good at it, like I say. I basically, it's like sports. You coach people. I tell them. Is this better?
You don't have to talk into it, it's just so that we can hear you later.
Okay, so basically I coach people like you do in sports, tell them how they can improve, work with them one-on-one, whether it's with what can do with teamwork together, help them with their bonding, the way that they can improve with their mechanical skills, their hand-eye coordination, all sorts of different things. I mean, it's a competitive sport. You got to practice or you're not going to be good at it. So you got to do it. But you got to tell them these things because or they also have to just be determined and like motivated. What's the word? Driven, basically, to do what they want to do because it's a very competitive scene and they have to try. Because Overwatch is a big game and they pay me hourly to do these things. Like for certain teams, it's different per team, but usually I do $35 an hour with these different people because I am I'm one of the higher ranked people in the game because I'm pretty good at it, and I just help these lower level people because they kind of suck, but I help them pretty much.
Well, there we go.
And I mean, I've seen considerable growth between these people, ranging from 13 to 18 years old, and it's a group. Their teams pay for it as a group because they have funding. Because these are sometimes like different. I've coached for a college one time. It was okay, I guess. But yeah, if you get good enough at something, you can just teach them. I guess it's kind of what it is. I did get paid like $500 for teaching a group for a week-long course, and I also do other games too. But Overwatch is mainly because I played in a few tournaments and I played for a lot. I still currently play for a competitive team. And we have a tournament this coming weekend actually, and I was kind of nervous about it, but yeah, it's pretty cool, I guess.
That one is not one that we play in class. This is not one that we do in class.
I loved your reference to Tilted, back from the pinball machines
Yep.
from last century.
Absolutely. That's exactly what they call it in the book. I think they refer to it as raging, but we've moved to tilted. So for the pinball machine.
I hadn't thought too much about that till you, because if you get too aggressive, you get frustrated or whatever. Next thing you know, the machine's tilted and you're done.
Absolutely.
So-
And that's what happens if they don't know how to manage that in a game. You throw the whole game is done if
Right.
you've lost your cool. So
Not that I ever did that on a machine. I think you guys are do very well because what I see there is adaptability. Whatever life throws at you, you guys will adapt to it and take it with head on, I'm sure.
well, we appreciate your time, and like I said, you guys are welcome anytime. I'm certain they'd be happy to give you guys a coaching session.
I can't afford him.
All right, thank you guys very much. I'm glad they were shy.
Well, they're beta testers. They're making good money if they beta test the games. They make very good money to be.
Okay, Superintendent, moving on to the FFA update.
Yes, well, we got to hear from a new program, and now board members will hear from one of our more traditional and successful programs. Our FFA group is here. Whitney Porter will get us started with those folks.
So I'm not going to talk much. I'm just going to introduce Ms. Aubrey Carroll. She's our president this year, and we have some officers that are going to share a little bit about what we have done so far and what our plans are for the rest of the school year. And we want to thank you all for your continued support. So you guys can just stand behind your
So like Ms. Porter said, I'm Aubrey Carroll. This year I'm the 2022-2023 FFA president, and these are my wonderful officers, some of them. You guys want to introduce yourselves?
Hello, I'm Jones Tanton. I'm the vice president of the UHS FFA.
I'm Bryce Strauss. I'm the treasurer of the FFA.
I'm Nick Sines, and I'm the parliamentarian of the FFA.
I'm the historian of the FFA.
So it's currently November, and we've been filled with activities, from helping us grow into a better chapter to aiding our peers and serving our community. Here are a few things we've done this year so far. We've done the Back to School Bash. We've hosted the Regional Leadership Night, which involved all the other county schools plus our state officers, the Buckwheat Festival, the UHS Homecoming Parade, Southern States Kids Day, corn stalks, apple sales, Mon County and Wadestown Fair, state conventions, and tractor driving. I'd like to brag a little and say we have a great chapter this year. Almost everyone in FFA has been active in all of the activities we've done. So far, we plan on doing a little bit more activities throughout the school year. For instance, greenhouse sales, regional fruit baskets, scholastics, Ag Olympics, the Ronald McDonald House, WVU Nursing Home Drive, the Beef Expo, and the Ham, Bacon, and Egg Show. We want to thank you guys for your continued support, and please accept these apples as a token of donation. And that's all we have.
You can ask those questions.
Yes, we're definitely going to ask some questions. So talk to us a little bit about University High's program and your teachers that are involved. Who's involved with your program out there?
Whitney, or Ms. Porter, is our advisor. A lot of our teachers help us out. For instance, we just did our apple sales, and a lot of teachers bought off of us. They make apple pies, and they just try to, help us out a little bit. Do any of you guys have anything? No? Right.
They're very happy to have you with the microphone, I think. So, do you work with Extension much?
I do not.
Because I
Not
know.
personally. I do.
We do actually a good
Yes.
bit.
I was going to say, because Extension, I know, has just added a lot of people to the staff that have a wide variety of capabilities and skills that are newer back to the area. So I know they would probably.
So Jones's mom actually, Mrs. Stanton, Heather, she and Becca, which I'm sure you guys know who Miss Clark is, they have already come in and done some presentations in our classroom. We work with them closely with all of the fairs and the shows and sales, and actually I just saw his mom tonight helping with apple sales. So they are really involved with us. I think that the kids probably see them more as like mom instead of extension office because of the Tantons, but yeah, they're really supportive of us, and we have to collaborate and coordinate a lot. We just did the Southern States Kitty Day sort of thing, and the extension office was there as well, and it's actually really great to kind of bring our kids together because you can't join, we don't have a middle school chapter, but you can't join FFA until you're in middle school, but for us in high school, so a lot of those 4-H kids that can join from age, 8?
Yes.
Okay, as an active or a 4-H member, we're kind of, it's almost a good recruitment because they see the kids in the blue jackets and they want to join so they can be in 4-H and FFA. And I have a lot of kids that are double as well, and it's actually really beneficial to coordinate with them. So yeah, we see Extension a lot. They're great.
Well, I know, because I know one of the new people they hired had worked extensively with seed development.
Betsy?
Yes.
Yeah, she's great.
And so I know that they're very interested in being more hands-on with as many people as they can.
Yeah,
in the
she
county.
actually asked if she could come do a presentation
That's
after
what-
Thanksgiving break, and I'm like, yeah, anybody besides me is more entertaining, so sign them up. Yeah, so I think that's great. We have a great working relationship, and they bring new things to the classroom as well. I know they just did some of the, what is it called, the virtual headset stuff that.
Yeah, they did some. They've been doing a lot of work with the VR stuff and
So
showing
we were
kids
kind
the
of the pilot
potential
for
with
that, yeah. And they came into our classroom and the kids really seemed to enjoy it. And I know that we were the first group to kind of try it out. And they've also gone to middle schools and some of the elementary.
Yeah, they went to the middle schools and they've done a lot of work with the elementary schools too, but not with the VR yet.
So, how's the tractor driving part? Everybody enjoy that?
Well, we have first place
First
winner,
place right
and
here.
Christian's representing our third place. So we had first and third out of our region, and they're going on to states.
Christian, you want to talk about your
Yeah,
experience?
very good.
Is there wasn't, for me personally, it wasn't hard because I did mow during the summer with my grandpa. There was an obstacle course and a written test and a safety test. I personally didn't think it was too hard, but for other people that are not used to doing it during the summer, it might be harder for others.
So is it testing and checking your equipment before you climb on board?
Yeah, you had to check around the tractor, make sure there's no obstacles in front of you before you started it. You have to make sure you know heading codes, going through the obstacle course, backing up, making sure there's clear. Then at the end, for me personally, they threw there's a safety vest acting as a branch or something, and you had to get off, make sure there's a park, and pick up the obstacle and give it back to the instructor.
So are the tractors all similar?
There was zero turn and large for high school, and then I'm pretty sure there's just a riding mower for middle schoolers.
Oh, okay. Pretty interesting.
Push mower for me when I was a kid.
My weed trimmer was.
So I noticed, I think it was Rio Rico, and tell me a story.
Well, actually, I am a transfer from Arizona, but we family just moved here. My dad, he's one of the head engineers in Bridgeport, works in aviation, and yeah, I just moved here. And I was in FFA over there in Arizona, Southern Arizona, Rio Rico, and yeah, I seem to like it over here as well.
We really threw him in.
Yeah.
It's great.
But I'm just getting to know them, and I really like it so far. And I got the officer position as parliamentarian, and I'm really liking it.
That's awesome. Well, welcome. Thank you so much for your presentation.
Now for the good
Yep, we have apples for you guys.
Apples.
Oh, buddy.
Yes. Feel free to trade.
It's usually what we do. Oh, yeah, we're getting
I was almost out of apples at home.
Well, not
This is
now.
great.
They are great.
Thank you.
I'm always yelling for the golden delicious.
Perfect,
I'm
thank
always
you.
like, can I have the golden delicious?
Red ones.
That's what I want. Yeah, me too.
They smell good too.
Golden gold.
You pick.
I'm a Fuji guy.
Thank you.
Fuji,
Thank
I love
you.
Fuji. Yes, thank you so
So
much.
hard to get
Yeah, right
these
there in the front.
anymore.
Thank you so much.
These are tough.
Now you can go right back here. So I want to give all
Thank
these
you so much.
teachers will be awesome. I'm assuming no one's over looking at me.
Everybody will take them. Thank you.
There he is.
You guys are
Thank you, guys.
wonderful. Thank you.
Thank you all
Thank
for
you
having
so
us.
much.
Thank you.
Thank you.
They come every day.
No.
Okay, okay.
Oh, you can.
We didn't want to be rude.
Even though they don't have school tomorrow, they have to do their homework, I'm sure.
Yeah.
Yes,
Yeah.
yes.
First thing on their list.
Nobody hangs with us very long, so
Thank you.
thank you.
All right, Superintendent. Academic update.
All right, I know this is what we're all about. This is academic overload night, so this is our business, this is what we should be talking about. So, item C on our academic update list. Obviously, over the last month or so, we've had a lot of we've had some folks come in and share some concerns about our reading programs here in the county. We've seen some things in the newspaper addressing our reading programs, and we just felt like it was very important for the board as well as the public to learn more about what exactly it is that we do with our reading, our English language arts programs in the county. It's the nuts and bolts of what we do that make us successful. And we wanted to share some of those things with you. So I will give you fair warning. This is going to be rather lengthy. So get comfortable. We've got a lot to talk about with you tonight. And I told them by no means that I want them to take any shortcuts when it came to this presentation. So please be patient with us. But we're going to talk to you about the science of reading this evening. So Tiffany, would you get us started?
I would love to. Thank
Thank you.
you. So, Dr. Campbell, thank you for that overview of what we'll be doing tonight. And I'd like to thank the board for this opportunity to share what we are doing in Monongalia County Schools with regard to reading. So my task this evening is to give you an overview of what we're doing. And, you know, in Monongalia County Schools, we're all about empowerment. So for our presentation tonight, we chose the title, Empowering All Students. Today, a reader, tomorrow, a leader. I want to give you a little bit of information about the philosophy behind reading that really drives what we do in Monongalia County Schools. And we believe that reading instruction is multidimensional. And what we mean by that is that it takes into account the cognitive, social, and critical aspects and the fluidity of the meaning of literacy. So when we talk about the cognitive aspects, we're really talking about being able to carry out those skills that are needed in context to be able to read a text, those sorts of things. When we talk about the social aspects, we're talking about how you use those skills in different situations. So how you tell a story might be an example of that. And then the critical aspects are being able to challenge what you're reading and come up with your own conclusions and challenge those attitudes. So using this multidimensional approach, we do also include the 5 core components of reading, or the pillars behind reading instruction, those being phonemic awareness, phonics, fluency, comprehension, and vocabulary. We believe that effective instruction of these components is systematic and explicit. We know that all children learn in different ways. There's no one-size-fits-all model. And we are committed to supporting not only personalized learning for our students, but also literacy-rich learning environments. So I want to give you guys just a little bit of information about phonemic awareness. So what you'll see, this is a picture today, or a picture of one of our speech therapists actually doing a lesson on phonemic awareness. And she happens to be using the LIPS curriculum, which is a Linda Mood Bell, if you're into the science of reading and all of the research, program. And when we look at phonemic awareness, this is the ability to hear and identify and manipulate and substitute phonemes. Those are the smallest units of sound. And so this is what makes us understand the spoken word. It's all about the sounds that makes up the words, and this is a strong predictor of long-term reading success for students. When you look at phonics instruction, this is the ability to understand that there are going to be predictable relationships between the letters and the sounds that they make. So we have some pictures of it in action in Monongalia County Schools. So we've got a teacher going over letters and sounds with his students. We have some examples of our classrooms, those literacy-rich environments where we really are helping students to be able to crack the code to learn how to read. Vocabulary. These are all the words that we need to understand, right, to make sense of what we read. And so it's very closely tied to reading comprehension. And we use a variety of different vocabulary strategies in Monongalia County Schools in our reading programs. Fluency is the ability to read accurately, quickly, and expressively. So this is how you really start to make understanding of what you're reading. And this is a part of our instruction. So you have a picture of a teacher with students, and they are doing some reading, and they're practicing their reading fluency. And then on the right, you have a teacher working with individual words and looking at word fluency with her students, just to help them be able to read the way that we talk. Which definitely has that direct impact with comprehension. And then comprehension is understanding and remembering and making meaning of what we read. And this really is the purpose. And as you all know, when we're looking at reading from as early as early Head Start up through graduating high school, we're teaching reading from the very basic terms to understanding that phonemic awareness to where it all comes together at the upper grades, from learning to read to reading to learn. And so I want to point out, as we talk about comprehension, Chris Urban had talked about different applications when she was talking about the Chromebooks. So to further aid students with comprehension, we also utilize a variety of technology apps, extensions on the Chromebook, different subscriptions that will help our students, that if they're having problems with reading fluency that may be affecting their comprehension, there are different ways where we can present things to them orally. We can change the color of text so that visually it's more appealing to them. They can make better sense of it. And these are all ways, because when you're teaching comprehension, you don't just solely teach it through reading, you can also teach it through listening and through doing read alouds and having students interact with you. So being that we are a public school system, we have policies that guide our practice, right? So I just wanted you to have a list of a lot of the policies that really encompass what we do with reading. And each of these policies really does guide what we do, from early Head Start to when children leave our system, children with disabilities at age 21. We're committed to providing access to family literacy engagement and providing education that includes extending learning opportunities to teach reading. And that's evident through what we do in the summer with our Summer Avalanche programs, with our Summer Sizzler programs, when we've got the buses and we're taking books out to the community so that we can have those literacy-rich environments, not just in our school buildings, but also putting text in the hands of our students. Things that enhance our practice. So we have highly qualified personnel. We have certified elementary education teachers. We have certified middle high school English language arts teachers. We have reading specialists. We have academic coaches that help to provide that embedded professional development to our staff. We have interventionists that are providing that extra level of support for readers that are struggling and need that extra. And we also have special educators for those students that meet criteria. We have highly effective instruction. We do large group, we do small group, we do individualized. We have instructional materials that are not only aligned to the state standards, but are also research-based. We have systematic assessment to gauge student progress towards meeting those standards, and also, again, professional development that is provided not just on our professional development days, but it really is embedded into the everyday practice for our educators. So, looking at the Monongalia County systems of support, we have our universal literacy instruction. So if you go back to the days where they talked about response to intervention or support for personalized learning, multi-tiered systems of support, the universal literacy instruction is what is provided to all students. This is our core instruction. And then our next level is assessment. And we do assess our students. We use benchmark assessments, and that lets us know where our students are when they're coming in at the beginning of the school year, how they're making progress. If they're not making progress, we can do deeper dives and see what specific skills we need to work on with the students. We have supplemental instruction and supports that can happen in the general education classroom, pulling kids into small groups, doing station work. And then if that is not enough support, then we go to targeted intervention instruction. And in the targeted intervention, we're providing more time working with reading skills and more frequent assessment that is driving our instruction for our students. The next level, if we have students that are still having difficulty, would be the intensive intervention instruction. And again, that's providing more in-depth intervention to children, more frequent progress monitoring, and everything being data-driven. And then for those students that after going through all of the tiered systems, if they're still not having success and they meet eligibility criteria, we have special education services. This is an overview of the West Virginia Tiered Systems of Support Framework, and this is what has guided the Monongalia County Tiered Systems of Support. So you can see that this is a framework that truly is designed to meet the needs of the whole child. Looking at it from an academic perspective, behavior, mental health, climate and culture, leadership teams, assessment, and family and community. So I want to take a deeper dive into our universal literacy instruction, or what we call our core. This is our tier 1, and it's delivered to all students. It's high quality, evidence-based instruction. It could include whole group. It could include small group. It could include individual. There are tons of opportunities for practice, for feedback, workstations. We work on phonemic awareness, phonics, vocabulary, fluency, comprehension, those 5 pillars that are critical. And our materials are all aligned to the college and career readiness standards. Looking at pre-K, because it starts early, right? It doesn't start when children enter kindergarten. So looking at pre-K, the big 5 for all, really address those elements of early literacy skills for our students. And this is that exposure, the putting the print in their hands, the understanding alphabet knowledge and early writing, knowing which way to hold a book, right? You'll see little ones that'll pick up a book and it's upside down. They don't know when they first begin reading the concepts that are behind that, oral language, vocabulary, and the beginnings of that phonological awareness. In K-5, our core instruction, we really focus on engaging in developmentally appropriate and effective experiences for our students because we want to promote developmental growth and mastery of the content and skills for all of our kids. There's discovery, small group, and individual learning, exploration, and problem solving. Our county textbook is Into Reading and Action. It's Houghton Mifflin Harcourt, and it was adopted. And as you know, when we have our materials adoptions, it's not one person that says, "Oh, I like this material." We have a committee of highly qualified educators that teach in that area that give input to help guide the materials that we select. So Into Reading is a comprehensive program. It was developed through years of research. It aligns with the West Virginia standards, and it includes small group instruction, decodable text. It really hits those 5 pillars of reading. It has embedded intervention built into the curriculum already, as well as writing instruction. When we move on to our middle high, our core instruction, we have our ELA standards that are required for them, and we offer literacy-rich environments that have numerous opportunities for students to have discussions and to write complex text. We integrate the foundations of reading, writing, and speaking and listening into language arts into each of our courses. Our middle high school adopted text is McGraw-Hill's Study Sync, and it provides ongoing professional development. We've got curriculum planning. It's provided opportunities for teachers to really have that deeper understanding of the content and the standards that they're required to teach. And we also prioritize our standards to make sure that we're really teaching those skills that are essential for the success of our students in grades 6 through 12. Our adopted series has high interest literature, informational text, different digital tools, multimedia. It provides for differentiation for our learners, acceleration for those students that are performing rather well, and multiple instructional pathways. There are thematic units, there are novel studies, there's a unit creator, there's print copies, there's digital copies. It addresses the college and career readiness standards. So I want to go back to talking about the tiered systems of support. And so this is a triangle that has been used to describe that. So if you look at the green, what that represents is the core. And so all students receive the core instruction. And the statistics, the research indicates that 80% of students are generally successful with that core instruction. If you look at the yellow triangle, that would be targeted. So that indicates that 15% of the population are going to need a little bit extra. They're going to need those targeted interventions. And then a very small percentage of students, that 5% in the red, will need something that's more intensive. So let me tell you a little bit about what we do for assessment. And when I'm talking about assessment, I'm not just talking about the general summative. I'm talking about our comprehensive system of assessment that looks at reading progress for all of our students. We do have some assessments that are mandated, and we do want you to know that when we have students that are in intervention, we do assess them more frequently than we do the students that are not in intervention, because we really need that data to drive the instruction. So looking at pre-K, we have the early learning rating scales, and those are done 3 times per year. Now these are informal observation-based assessments. They measure children's performance over time, and it's in a context of typical daily activities. And we assess these in real classroom situations. The next assessment we use for pre-K is the Phonological Awareness Literacy Screening, or the PALS. And this is done 2 times per year. And the PALS really is important to predicting which readers are going to be successful, because it looks at phonological awareness, alphabet recognition, concept of word, knowledge of letter sounds, and spelling. The Brigance is given within the first 45 days of school for our preschool students, again to give us more information to see where our students are coming to us and where we need to move them to get them ready for school. When kids get to kindergarten, we do the ELRS, the Early Learning Rating Scales, and the PALS. And at that point, we begin with the iReady Reading Diagnostic, and that is delivered 2 times per year. Here's a little bit of data about our pre-K assessment results. And when you look at this, this is about phonological awareness and language manipulation. So all the way to the right, these are our students that are preschool special needs, students that are identified as having developmental delays. So 43% of our preschool special needs students are where they should be in terms of those phonological awareness and language manipulation skills. When you look at the next one, the collabs at 97%, those are our daycare collaborative programs. So that's a very small percentage compared to the number of children that we have in our preschool programs within our schools. Head Start These students are typically those that come from a lower socioeconomic status. And so you can see that 71% of those students are currently where they should be in that area. And if you look at pre-K at a whole, we've got 82% of our kiddos performing where they should be with those phonological awareness and language manipulation skills. If we look at kindergarten, the data shows that our kindergartners are 100% of understanding the concept of word, about 65% of identifying words in context. Spelling is about 75%. Knowing their letter sounds and identifying letters is at about 80%. Understanding beginning sounds is at about 75%. Being aware of rhyming words is about 80%, and the overall summary is just above 80%, around 82% for our kindergarten students. We use the iReady diagnostic assessment for all students in grades 1 to 5 3 times a year. And if a child, when they're taking the iReady, if they're not meeting the target, iReady will suggest some additional assessments to take a deeper dive to try to diagnose maybe what's going on with our learners. And there is a dyslexia diagnostic, a screener built into iReady. And we have other assessments available as needed. We have a bulk of assessments through our school psychologist, that department, where if needed, we can really take a deeper dive to really pinpoint where the deficiencies are with student reading. And with middle high, again, we use iReady. It's given 3 times a year. The standards tested and the questions are aligned to the West Virginia General Summative Assessment. And this gives schools early indications about student performance and growth. And it's adaptive, which allows students to perform at their current ability. And it allows us to do data-driven instruction with our students. So looking at our fall current benchmark assessments, and this is it's a little complicated to understand, because when I tell you this, when you look at just the colors alone, you have to have an understanding that when the benchmark is given, it's the fall placement distribution. So when we're looking at the green, or the data that says that children are above grade level or they're at grade level, what we're looking at is data that is saying they basically have mastered the concepts for the grade level they're currently in, okay? So when you're looking at the yellow and it says 1 grade level below, given that it's fall, if I'm a 4th grader and I'm taking the 4th grade assessment at the beginning of my 4th grade year and I'm functioning at an end of 3rd level, I really am where I should be, because it shouldn't be until I finish 4th grade that I've mastered all of the concepts. So when we're looking at those students that are at risk, we're really looking at the pink and the red area students. So if you look at the national norm from 1819, there were about 30% of students that would fall in that pink and that red. And if you look at the national year to date from fall of this fall, you're looking at about 35% of the students. And you can see our data is the data over to the right. And so that would be about 29% of our students that we're looking at that may need some targeted or intensive intervention. Looking at summative assessment data, I think that it's important to note that the West Virginia summative assessment are only comparable within the state. So we can't take the data from our assessment and compare it to our neighboring states, Maryland, Ohio, Pennsylvania, Virginia. because we're looking at different standards when we're doing those assessments. So looking at the 11th grade SAT school day assessment, which is nationally normed, so you can compare results. Mon County had a mean score of 506, West Virginia was at 474, and the nation was at 408. So these results, what they indicate is the likelihood of students being able to pass college entry-level courses. And we had 58% that were meeting the reading benchmark. And if you think about that, that's pretty impressive because these students are taking this during their 11th grade year, which means that they have another year of schooling left with us before they would be taking those entry-level college courses. The NAEP, or the National Assessment for Educational Progress, it's difficult to use the NAEP, I think, to compare data because it's not reflective of individual populations in the state. It's just kind of a random sample of students that are given it. The sample size is extremely small, and we can't look at individual student results when we're looking at the NAEP. So it gives us a snapshot of what education might look like, but it's not specific enough for us to really dig down, and do a true analysis of what we're doing. But all states are assessed every 2 years. Obviously, due to the pandemic, there were some years that NAEP was not delivered. The results are considered estimates. And in 2022, selected fourth grade classrooms in only 3 of our schools participated in either the math or reading. And there were only 1,600 participants from across the entire state of West Virginia. And looking at 8th grade classrooms, the 8th graders, when they did the NAEP, it wasn't in the areas of reading and math. It was in the areas of history and civics. So although it does give us some data, it's difficult to really base our reading programming on the data that we can ascertain from the NAEP. Looking at supplemental programs and support, in pre-K, we use creative curriculum, which is what we do to address skill deficits. And we provide children small group instruction if they need more time to be able to acquire their skills. They get individualized instruction, and they're able to move fluidly into and out of small groups as they make progress. Looking at elementary, we have phonics and phonemic awareness programs. iReady has some online adaptive reading practices through that. And we have environments that allow us to do some different things with time, with space, to be more flexible, to meet the needs of our students. Some of the actual research-based programs that we have that we use through our elementary supplemental reports, our interventions, our special education services. We have the LIPS program, which you saw earlier with the phonemic awareness. We use multisensory approaches to reading, which are based on the Orton-Gillingham works. We have Seeing Stars. We have Barton, we have Spire, we have Wilson, we have Foundations, we have units of study in phonics. And we couple all of these with decodable text for our students. So as I said earlier in the presentation, there's no one-size-fits-all for any student. So by having this wealth of resources, that allows our teachers the flexibility to be able to pull the tools out of their toolkit when it's needed based on what we're seeing with each student. We also have extended time tutoring and our summer programming, as I had mentioned earlier. Middle and high school, they really focus on high-yield strategies for students and engaging all learners in critical thinking and content-specific instruction. They're looking at Those strategies are things like cooperative learning, right? And we saw that at its best when we were talking with Mrs. Barlow earlier about what her students are doing. Visible thinking routines, and that's just really teaching those metacognitive strategies, teaching you how to think, how to process what you're thinking, and then using different techniques for student engagement. Getting into targeted intervention. Students that are in targeted, this means they're not responding to that core, right? So this is that 15% of students that was the yellow in our triangle. And we do give them more support. They have more in-depth scaffolding and skill building. We use components from our county adopted text. I had mentioned earlier that there are built in some interventions into our text. We use leveled literacy intervention, which is strategy instruction. Again, multisensory strategies, focused vocabulary intervention, and different programs such as Wilson Reading. Looking at intensive intervention, these are the students, that small triangle, the red one, that aren't responding to universal and targeted. And so this is really tailored to the unique and individual needs of our students. It's more time with the reading instruction. They get it more frequently, and we're progress monitoring them more often so that we can see if the interventions that we're putting in place are working. And if they're not working, do we need to find another intervention, or do we need to possibly look at the possibility of them needing more support? And that more support could be special education. So if a child is eligible for special education services in the area of reading, the things that would happen is we would have a facilitated IEP meeting. And the purpose of this would be to collaboratively with the teachers, with the parents, with the child, if they're old enough, to develop that IEP that's based on the students' strengths and challenges, that is going to lay out the plan for their education for the next year. Special education teachers in Monongalia County use high leverage practices, and these were developed by the Council for Exceptional Children and the Cedar Center in Florida. And this is how we provide our specially designed instruction to students. And if you look at specially designed instruction, the definition is adapting as appropriate to the needs of an eligible child, the content, methodology, or delivery of instruction to address the unique needs of the child that result from their disability and to assure access of the child to the general curriculum. Student progress is monitored consistently. We report to parents each grading term to let them know how students are doing on their IEP goals. So I want to talk a little bit, because I think during the past several weeks and months, you've heard a lot of statistics as it pertains to dyslexia in particular. And so I want to point out that when you look at the statistics surrounding dyslexia, I think it's 1 in 5 people may be affected with dyslexia. So that would be about 20%. But when you're looking at national data as it pertains to special education, about 15% of all school-age students are identified as having a disability and needing special education services. So when you're looking at that 15%, you're not talking only about those students that may have reading disabilities. You're talking about the entire gamut of special education, which goes from developmental delay to autism to intellectual disabilities to visual impairments to hearing impairments, and so on and so forth. So of those 15%, 33% of those students in the nation are diagnosed as having a specific learning disability. And that specific learning disability could be in the areas of math, writing, listening, or reading. And this could include dyslexia or dyscalculia. Now, Monongalia County Schools, when I dug into the data, we're pretty much on par with what the national statistics are saying. 15% of our population are students with disabilities, and of that 15%, 36% have a specific learning disability. I also thought it important to point out that in addition to just looking at the category, because we are talking about reading, instead of looking at what we do for children in terms of early intervention. And that can start with our children as early as age 3 that come in that are eligible for services in the area of speech and language. Because as you saw earlier in the slide, we have a speech pathologist doing phonemic awareness activities with students that have qualified under that category as well. So I think the point of sharing this data with you is to let you know that a specific learning disability or having a diagnosis of dyslexia are not necessarily always equal. So if you look at the definition of specific learning disability, it means a disorder in one or more of the basic psychological processes involved in understanding or in using language, spoken or written. It can manifest itself in the imperfect ability to listen, think, read, speak, spell, or do math calculation. And it includes conditions such as perceptual disabilities, brain injury, minimal brain dysfunction, dyslexia, and developmental aphasia. And when you're looking at eligibility, you have to take into account the level and rate of learning, and it must be significantly below same-aged peers in that 8th percentile rank. So a diagnosis does not automatically give you an IEP, I guess is the best way to say it. We do assess for dyslexia. It is an alternative term used to refer to a pattern of learning difficulties that are characterized by problems with accurate or fluent word recognition, poor decoding, and poor spelling abilities. And so when we really dig down deep and we do those psychoeducational evaluations or those reading diagnostics, we look at these areas: cognition, oral language, decoding, phonological processing, etc. There are 4 types of dyslexia. Phonological dyslexia, and this is issues with learning, blending, and manipulating sounds. There's rapid naming dyslexia, which affects the ability to quickly recollect the memory of sounds and those symbol relationships. There's double dyslexia, which is issues with both the phonological and the quick recollection. And then there's surface dyslexia, which is issues with visual processing, which has trouble with recognizing words in print. And again, not all students with dyslexia will meet the level and rate of learning criteria for special education eligibility. What we know about students with dyslexia is that they have strengths. All students have strengths. And so among their strengths are that they have cognitive strengths. They learn differently. They understand when they know that their brains are wired a little differently. They think in terms of strengths versus disorder. They are big picture people. They are very skilled at visual processing of tasks. They often have an aptitude for art, architecture, engineering. And so they do better at holistic visual processing and insight-based reasoning than their neurotypical peers. When we look into what does instruction look like for students with dyslexia, structured literacy instruction is very important. And so there are different areas. There's phonology, which is the study of patterns of sounds in language. There's the sound symbol association, which is the connection between letter names and sounds that are made by them. The syllable instruction, which is understanding the rules that apply to words that have more than one syllable. Morphology is the study of words, understanding things like prefixes, suffixes, base words. Syntax is the arrangement of words and phrases to create your sentences and language. And the instruction should be systemic and cumulative, explicit, and diagnostic. And as you can see throughout the presentation, we hit all of these marks with what we're doing with our reading instruction in Monongalia County Schools. Curing dyslexia. Research indicates that dyslexia is a disorder. It's present at birth. and it cannot be prevented and it cannot be cured, but it can be managed with special instruction and support. Early intervention to address reading problems is important, and parents must understand that children with dyslexia can learn normally, but they're probably going to need to learn in different ways than children without the condition. And again, when I go back and I'm reflecting on all the information that I shared about all of the great things we do with our reading programs and all of the resources that we have, we are very well equipped to meet the needs of students that learn in different ways. Professional learning in Monongalia County. So we have a continuous professional learning, and that's key to our success as a school system. As you know, things are ever evolving in education. There's always a new program. There's always a new strategy. There's always a new method for teaching. And so we're constantly keeping abreast of the new developments and providing professional learning to our teachers. Every school has a job-embedded professional learning staff to help them achieve. We talked about that with the academic coaches. And our grade level teachers meet weekly for professional development and professional learning communities. And as a part of those professional learning communities, they really take that deep dive into that student data so that they really can personalize instruction for their students. Currently, we have 18 teachers that are enrolled in a literacy specialist certification program at Marshall University. 35 teachers were trained in a 3-day introductory Wilson Language Systems course in August of 2022. All special education teachers working with students with specific learning disabilities received a full-day training from the Bureau of Education and Research on dyslexia strategies to accelerate greater literacy success in this past August. And those were strategies when we talked about, it was about like manipulating words, right? So for example, when you have students with dyslexia that are having difficulties with that phonemic awareness and some of those sound symbol relationships, an example of a quick strategy that they might learn could be something that could be done even at the middle and high school as a bell ringer. So for example, if I say the word fit, change the f to h, what word is that? And then the students would say hit. So just, those are examples of different strategies. And then we have 40 additional teachers that will be starting the literacy specialist courses in the summer of 2023. So where does that take us? We have a lot of great things going on in Monongalia County, but we have always been a self-reflective county, and we're always striving to do better. So we couldn't put this presentation together sharing with you what we're doing in reading instruction without having a plan to move forward. So we plan on reviewing our current practices and establishing focus groups of stakeholders so that we can get some input across the board about what we're doing, and then continuing our work with using those empirically based programs and consulting experts in the field. So if you have any questions, I will do my best to answer, but I will also phone a friend with the experts here.
So I do want to add that.
Yes.
And this presentation is a result of all of those folks sitting here this evening, as well as many others involved, to put this together. So I would like to suggest that questions could be directed at Tiffany or others sitting here at the table. And Angela Hayes, whom you met earlier as the coordinator of psychological services, and as we go down the row here, and I guess I'll start down here with Debbie Jones, who does all of our pre-K programming, and Norma Gaines, who does our elementary programming, and Laura, who's new with us this year, Tobias, who does work with our middle and high school programming in ELA. Courtney Crawford, who does programming with us, or director with counseling, but in this case with assessment. And Susan, who does work with us, Susan Taylor, who does work with us. And in a former life, she does now with our community outreach, but in a former life did a lot of work in the elementary programming area in reading. And I want to make note here of the ladies here, Principal Jennifer Cox at Skyview, and this wonderful team of title teachers that are sitting here. These are boots on the ground folks who work with children every day at Skyview. And I know they are definitely experts in the field, so I want to acknowledge them here as well. So any questions that the board may have, I know that they can be answered here this evening, without a doubt.
Donna, I just wanted to let the board know as well, on the heels of the presentation, that I spent my morning in Charleston with Superintendent Roach. He had asked me to come talk to his staff about exactly what you just saw this evening. We are recognized in the state of West Virginia for the work that we do in the area of literacy. And as they begin their new process of developing and working with low-performing schools and school systems, they're reaching out to people with proven success. And I had the opportunity to go and speak with his staff this morning and share a lot of the things that you heard this evening in what we're doing here that helps us to be successful. And I love the way that this presentation closed, because it does talk about the fact that we aren't satisfied with where we are. And I think maybe there were some folks that felt like we weren't pushing forward and trying to get better at what we do, but that's absolutely not the case with that. We have those conversations internally all the time about what do we do next to get better. I always say there's somebody chasing us, and we want to stay ahead of the pack, and so we continue to want to grow in all of these areas in literacy. But I did want you to know that again, there's a recognition out there that we're doing things right, and that we're successful in what we do, and it's because of the people that are in this room this evening.
Board members, any questions?
I mean, I guess I would ask the people with the boots on the ground, I mean, I know we are always constantly improving. Is there anything you know that you need from us?
We have so many resources available, and we are using all of them just depending on the needs of our children. You know, we get a whole new batch of kids, we assess, we look at the data, we look at their personalities, we look at see what is going to reach their needs the most effectively. And then if it doesn't work, we change gears and we try it a different way and just keep plugging away with it.
I would ask, do you feel comfortable knowing that you can ask us if you come up with something that you think we need? Do you feel, are we getting that message across to you that we're here to support you and help with this endeavor?
Mrs. Walker, did you have a question?
Yeah, I actually have a couple, and one of them is, actually, one probably refers to the thing we've been talking about most recently, or hearing about most recently with dyslexia, is that in some grades up to a certain point, it seems like we were doing a better job in the estimations of some families. Then as we got up into senior high, more senior high moments, where we had different teachers with more specific subjects, that is when a lot of the real challenges occur. So just when you were talking about special education and saying that unless a student performs at this and that level below, I think that a lot of people may feel their children are not being, receiving what they need or getting the attention they need, when in reality, they are ahead of a lot of students that may not be living up to the potential of what that particular student feels or what their family feels. So I don't know how we partner to address some of those. And so I guess I probably should look over here at our middle senior high reading specialists, because.
Let's start here
We're
first.
gonna let Tiffany
Yeah.
go first.
I'm
Okay.
sorry.
No, that's fine. I mean, I'm just like, I don't know.
Yeah.
I don't know how, we strive to meet the needs of every student, but every student in that 5%
Right.
is so diverse and has different supports at home and has different needs and
Yes.
different interests, that I think that, it sounds to me, just from the outside looking in and from what families say to maybe us individually, that seems to be where the fall off occurs, is when those students have more specialized desires to excel in certain areas.
Well, so you're right. Historically, that has been the case, right? Because once you get to a certain level, you've got the graduation requirements that you have. But then if you have any special interest, there's only so much time in a day, in a child's school day. However, through the years, we have evolved tremendously. There was a time where we didn't have programs like iReady or programs that we had in the past that really dug down deep into hitting those deficiencies for students. We also didn't have some of the creative ideas that through Mrs. Duvall and our middle and high school principals that we've come up with to be able to find that time to provide intervention during the school day, to do a little bit of flex scheduling. So that is something that I believe that we have made a vast improvement on throughout the course of the years, and that some families may have had experiences prior to these changes taking place in Monongalia County. So Sandy, I don't know if you have anything to add.
No, exactly. When we talk about the extended block, when we talk about revisiting small groups, walk into high school classes, middle school classes, you do see small groups. You see that individual. You see that rotations of intervention. And it is the fact that more and more we are looking at that personalized learning for the students. Again, through your support, iReady as an assessment for middle and high, we didn't have anything. All we had was the Scholastic reading inventory and the Scholastic math inventory, which provided a Lexile, which didn't provide that personalized addressing of those areas of reading and math. It also, through some of the high yield strategies that we are working with middle school and high school teachers to get that interaction and that engagement of students and that interest in what they're doing. Our flex scheduling that's in high schools does provide for even more additional time for that assistance through teachers involved with the student.
I would
Laura?
just add that our textbook for ELA is more adaptable than any book that we've had prior to this. Through StudySync, our teachers are able to scaffold, they're able to set a reading level for individual students. There are just more tools available to address those needs. With the use of iReady will determine the needs of the student and put them on a path, but also teachers are able to pull individualized lessons, looking at the data, if there are certain gaps in student learning. So we just have more access to digital tools, data, and as Sandy said, just that personalized learning focus. Also with our interventions, I've been to every middle and high school and seen intervention at work. Everybody has a kind of a unique unique approach according to the needs of that particular school. But it's happening in every middle and high school in Mon County. We're doing intervention.
And the focusing on data. Now we really do have PLCs that discuss data. They talk about what we're doing, how we can do better, where this child is, what are some of those specific things. And through those PLCs, there is the combination of all teachers servicing that child.
So, I mean, I think, so what I'm hearing is we have grown exponentially in our approaches, but also it appears nationally and there's many more resources that even were available 10 years ago.
Oh, absolutely.
In a lot of these reading deficiency areas. Because actually I just heard the director of the national literacy group say there's 130 million folks who graduated from high school who are below reading level and cannot even really do what we would consider rudimentary things to be able to advance their lives, to be able to do their taxes, to be able to do a lot of things you need to do to be successful. So, you know, I want to say we've all been hacking away at this and working at it, and it's I think there's been a lot of disheartening information that's come out recently when it appears that we still are working at it and realize there's a lot of work to do. So, you know, you hate to hear of any family that's suffered in any way because they feel like they have been left behind or been ignored, and I don't really think that's exactly 100%. That was never the intention of anyone that was working with any of these students. But I also think a lot of students need continuity in their lives. If you have any of these reading challenges, I think your family has to be able to learn what to do to support you, as well as the schools have to learn what to do to support you. And it may not be the same for everyone.
That's right. And I know we're moving forward, but the pandemic did not do us any favors. You know, Monongalia County Schools did a phenomenal job at continuing education throughout the pandemic. But during the times when we were not able to be in person, we all know there's no replacement for that in-person instruction. So that's a barrier for us, but we are working hard and we're continuing to climb that mountain and you know, keep on working, so.
I mean, how could you work with direct reading strategies with students that were either on a computer or unable to participate? So when I look at you know, I hate to say data and statistics and all that, but that's what we're forced to use.
Right.
You can see why some folks fell behind and everyone's working so hard to get them up to level and beyond.
Yes.
I mean, I really feel like everyone in the schools is really working diligently to try to do that.
Absolutely.
So, thank you. This was a wonderful presentation.
I just have, no, go ahead.
Go ahead, no.
No, I was just saying, based on the data that you've seen, what do you think is the biggest obstacle moving forward that we have to overcome?
The biggest obstacle for Monongalia County Schools moving forward?
Right.
I have a little bit
Yeah.
of answer to that, just as my entire focus is grades 1 through 5, of course. So I'm a little prejudiced, but I'm super worried about our second graders and third graders right now, because those are the kids who miss those really critical skills from kindergarten and first grade.
Yeah.
Some of them had first grade with masks on. It's really hard to walk fast with those bringing awareness and phonics skills through masks. And teachers are doing a fantastic job trying to make up that ground with kids, but I'm really worried about kids at those particular grades right now.
Academically, socially, altogether?
All together, but yeah, all the above.
Okay, thank you.
I'm just going to add to that. The social delays are, as I see it, compounding this issue. And all of our schools, all of our teachers are seeing that and experiencing that.
Well, and people don't want to talk about that anymore. They think we're out, we don't have any of these problems, everything's good to go, let's move. And I don't know that a lot of even families realize how far behind some of our students are in that, in this self-regulation, these self-regulation issues that if something doesn't go exactly the way a student thinks it's going to go, they just can't deal with it.
I appreciated the comic relief at about slide 7 or 8 on the top left corner if you didn't.
I didn't catch it. What was it?
It was, it said fragile, and I thought fragile. I thought surely Tiffany put that in there intentionally because we're talking about phonetics.
See if you were paying attention.
And pronunciation. So I said, it must be, thought to myself, must be Italian. I looked at you and I started laughing. I was thinking, surely she did that on purpose. I think Nancy spoke to exactly what I was thinking. We have 130, I don't know if that number's right, but 130 million people that can't help at the house. And our kids were at the house for the last 2 years.
Mm-hmm.
So the fact that you guys are moving forward is appreciated. The fact that when we were, I want to say, put down as a school system for not paying attention to reading, both here and then also in the paper, as I talked to the superintendent, said we really have to respond to this, and you come out and really responded, Tiffany. I really appreciated that. I appreciate the leadership from this level, from the central office level, the most important people sitting here in front of us, the teachers and the principals in the classrooms. Really appreciate you guys coming out. I appreciate the fact that we need you to do what needs to be done for these kids. We can't do it from this level. We can support you. We can talk about things that we're trying to do, but the most important thing is to make sure you guys know that you're appreciated for what you guys do every day. So I appreciate you guys being here, and watch A Christmas Story. It'll be on for 24 hours. So if there's no other questions, thank you guys. You guys can probably run out of here.
Yes.
This is really going to get.
Thank you very much.
And even the central office.
Yes,
Unless
thank you
unless you
very
need
much.
someone, if they're here for this presentation.
If the board doesn't need them for anything further, I certainly want to excuse them. And folks, thanks for being here, and I'll give you tomorrow off.
Yeah. I was going to suggest that. Thank you again.
Thank you.
Superintendent, reports, discussion, follow-up action.
All right. First on our list this evening is an agreement between the West Virginia University Hospital Dietetics program and our child nutrition program, and this is for a field placement. Superintendent recommends that the board approve the agreement as presented.
Need a motion?
So moved.
Jen is the second. Any questions?
Basically, they're going to have somebody follow Brian around, as he likes to say.
Yes.
In child nutrition.
Okay, hearing no questions, all in favor of WVUH Dietetics Field Placement Agreement, Child Nutrition, signify by aye.
Aye.
Aye, opposed, the same. Superintendent?
Our next item is arbiter pay sports and referee pay. Superintendent recommends that the board approve the agreement as presented.
Need a motion?
So moved.
Second.
Second.
Thank you. Any questions?
Board members, just so you understand what we're doing here is this will eliminate the need for our schools to cut checks to pay for referees. We'll do it through an online system.
Okay, all in favor? Darn it. I messed up my computer here, sorry. Okay, all in favor of the arbiter pay, sports referee pay as presented, signify by aye.
Aye.
Aye, opposed, the same. Superintendent?
This is accounts payable addendum A. And let's see.
I gotta go, I think.
Mr. Kelly? okay.
Yeah, I was gonna say, is that the one I'm on?
I think that's yours.
Okay.
And superintendent recommends that the board approve the accounts payable addendum A as presented in your executive file attachments.
Motion? I'll second that. Any questions? Hearing none, all in favor of the accounts payable addendum A as presented, signify by aye. Aye. Opposed, the same. We do need a bell, don't we?
Yeah.
There's a bell ringing on the other end.
Is there?
That worked.
Superintendent?
Item D is another accounts payable addendum. This is listed as B. We'll need Mr. Barry, I believe, to step out on this one.
Maybe what we can see.
Superintendent recommends that the board approve accounts payable addendum B as presented in your executive file attachments.
We need a motion?
So moved. Well,
I got Jen as a second. Any questions? Hearing none, all in favor of the accounts payable addendum B as presented signify by aye.
Aye.
Aye. Opposed, the same. We had no delegations tonight. Superintendent, consent agenda.
Yes, board members, we're down to our consent agenda. Superintendent recommends that the board approve the consent agenda as presented this evening, which will include item A, expenditures exceeding $3,000. Item B are supplements and transfers. Item C, the payment of salaries and accounts payable. Item D, student trips. Item E, our Head Start September 2022 report. Item F is the Early Head Start September monthly report. Item G is an agreement with the Western Governors University for student teaching. And item H are the minutes.
Okay, any motion?
So moved.
Second.
Questions, comments? Hearing none, all in favor of consent agenda as presented signify by aye.
Aye.
Opposed, the same. Do I have any board member updates this evening? They can't wait till next meeting, which is a week from tonight.
Oh, I do, one.
Okay.
Today, I got to some exciting news about one of our former students I just wanted to share. And I'm going to read it so I don't get the other student's name wrong. But Leon Dunleavy is an MHS 2019 graduate and a senior at the United States Naval Academy. He and a friend of his growing up from Preston County, they worked together in Vex Robotics, and that's how they met each other. But that child's name is Henry Sorbonne, Preston High School 2019, and senior at Harvard. The two of them are Rhodes Scholar finalists for our district, which is District 11. 2 out of 12 finalists will be chosen from the 16 districts. Our districts include West Virginia, Michigan, Minnesota, and Wisconsin. So our West Virginia got 2, which is awesome. So they should be hearing soon, I imagine, but they're Rhodes Scholar finalists,
Sweet.
which is really awesome. So
Yes, it is.
I'm so proud because he was my Westwood student too, so follow him.
And Leon was one of Dakota's really good friends, and he is one of the most respectful kids you'll know.
Very much so.
Absolutely.
Yep.
Excellent kid, so. All right, thank you, Jen. That was very,
That's good we did.
very important. Thank you. Superintendent, policies.
Okay, we do have several policies that need to be addressed this evening. Jennifer's not here, so I'm going to tackle these for you if there's any questions. First is item A, which is policy 3120.08, employment of personnel for extracurricular activities. This is for second reading and adoption this evening.
Any motion?
I'll move.
I'll second it. Any questions, comments? Any comments from the public on all policy at all A through F tonight?
Yes, policy 4120.08, which is the next one.
Okay, we'll
Yeah.
okay. Any board member comments or questions on 3120.08? Hearing none, all in favor of policy 3120.08, employment for personnel for extracurricular activities for second reading signify by aye.
Aye.
Aye. Opposed, the same. Superintendent?
Okay, item B is policy 4120.08. This is employment of personnel for extracurricular activities. This is also for second reading and adoption. Superintendent recommends that the board approve policy 4120.08 as presented this evening.
Need a motion?
So moved.
Second.
Board members, if you look, we did receive one comment, it was a question, actually, which we were able to answer for the individual. If you look at paragraph, the 6th paragraph in the policy, it speaks to an alternative procedure for making extracurricular school service personnel assignments by approval of the Board of Education and a 2/3 vote of the employees within a classification category. The employee question was whether they would have to take all votes again after passage of the amended policy, should you approve it this evening, and the answer is no. Jennifer checked into that. The answer is no, they do not have to take the votes again. So we were able to answer that question to that individual's satisfaction.
Okay. Board members, any questions? Hearing none, all in favor of policy 4120.08, employment of personnel for extracurricular activities, second reading and adoption, signify by aye.
Aye.
Aye. Opposed, the
Aye.
same. Superintendent?
All right, item C is policy 5140. This is our motor vehicles driver's license restrictions policy. This is for second reading and adoption. Superintendent recommends that the board approve policy 5140 as presented this evening.
Need a motion?
So moved.
I'll second it.
Okay. Any questions, board members? As my kids dig into the motor vehicle licensing books, they ask me about this specific thing, and I explained it to them. So, all right. Hearing none, all in favor of policy 5140, motor vehicle driver's license restrictions, second reading and adoption, signify by aye.
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 Opposed, the same. Superintendent?
Item D is policy 5111, eligibility of resident, non-resident students for enrollment. This is for first reading. Superintendent recommends that the board approve the policy presented this evening.
My stomach said it approves. I need a
I'll
motion?
move. I'll move.
I'll second that one. Superintendent, any board member comments? What do we,
You guys are approving. We cleaned this up. We brought this to you last time. We're just cleaning it up for you, and we'll get it out for first reading, should you approve it.
okay. Any questions? All in favor of policy 5111, eligibility of resident, non-resident students for enrollment, going out for first reading, signify by aye.
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 Opposed, the same. Superintendent?
Okay, item E is policy 5113. This is open enrollment for non-resident students. This is also for first reading. Superintendent recommends that the board approve the policy as presented this evening for first reading.
Need a motion?
So moved.
Second?
And I did want to point out, I know Mr. Lytle had requested that we add the terminology Monongalia County to A.3, and we did that.
Any other questions or comments on this one? All in favor of policy 5113, open enrollment for non-resident students for the first reading, signify by aye.
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 Opposed, the same. Superintendent?
All right, the last one we have this evening for you is policy 5331. This is the administration of opioid antagonists. This is for first reading. The superintendent recommends that the board approve as presented.
Need a motion?
So moved.
Second.
Thank you.
And I did want to point out, I know we had some discussion on this policy, and I asked Jennifer to go back and take a look at this, make any consultations that she needed to do. In the first paragraph, if you notice, it does speak, and this is in quotation, to the school's supply of opioid antagonists. This policy is specifically addressing only the school's supply. It addresses no other opioid antagonists that are on a private individual's possession, or a police officer that comes on site and carries it. It's only the school's supply that we have in our buildings. And so I know Mr. Lytle had some concerns about the possibility that this would prohibit, the policy would prohibit Say, for example, at the Mohawk Bowl a couple weeks ago, if we had a situation where somebody needed to administer an opioid antagonist in the bleachers, and they were using their own supply, that they wouldn't be able to do that because of this policy. And that's absolutely not true. This does not prohibit that scenario of a Good Samaritan from administering their own supply. It specifically only addresses our supply.
And if I could also, I don't think I was as clear as I could have been also from Mr. Lytle last time, because our supply is available for not just our nurses, even though our nurses are trained as anyone. For example, at a ball game, our principal might be there supervising a ball game. They could administer that. It's not limited to just the nurses who might not be on premises. So they could administer that to someone that perhaps has an episode there at a ball game. So it's not limited. It's not, and it will be, we don't have the, I guess, the box or whatever will be maintained. Those have not arrived yet, but it will be maintained. And for example, if someone does need to access it, a teacher or someone, and there are, just a spray in your nasal area, and again, it can be administered by anyone.
Do the teachers all get trained for that? I mean, I know it's probably not a big deal thing, but to know it's there and know where to find it and how to.
And yes, they can be, and yes, we'll do that.
I was just thinking about the schools that have nurses that travel or.
And actually, we have someone on site now. There's a nurse or an LPN all the time at every school, and again, we're fortunate to have that. And it's not that I'm reticent to ask teachers to do anything else other than teach. We ask them to do so much. So, but we'll certainly make them aware of all of this so that they can do it. But yes, the answer is we certainly will make them aware of it, and it's an important safety feature. But we do have trained personnel on site at every building during the day, but certainly anyone can access it.
All right, all in favor of policy 5331, administration of opioid antagonists, for going out for first reading, signify by aye.
Aye.
Aye. Opposed, the same. Superintendent, personnel.
Right, thank you, board members, for that. We'll move to our personnel matters. First is your regular personnel list. I don't have any changes to the list this evening. Superintendent recommends that the board approve the personnel list as presented.
Need a motion?
So moved.
I'll second it.
Just one item of note, just for the purpose of clarity, you do notice there's a long list of professional substitute terminations on there. I did speak to Mr. DeSantis today. This is just part of our normal process of cleaning up our substitute list. He sends out a letter to all of the individuals who have not worked within the last year. If those folks respond back and say they want to stay on the list, then we leave them on the list. If there's no response from these individuals, those are the names that you see on the list this evening. So, just point of clarification.
Okay. Give me a second. I'll get back to it. I guess all in favor of the personnel list as presented, signify by aye.
Aye.
Opposed, the same. Superintendent.
All right, I do have a couple of items to clean up on the addendum for this evening. First of all, on page 1, on line 10, if you would add the name Grab Ashley. And that's it. That's actually the only thing I need to do. Just that's it. Superintendent recommends that the board approve the personnel addendum with that addition.
Need a motion? All right, thank you, Michael. Can I get a second?
Second.
Thank you. Questions? in favor of the personnel list addendum as presented signify by aye.
Aye.
Opposed, the same. Superintendent?
You got help.
Yeah, I'm sure Jen appreciates that approval. Before I move on to the last item there on personnel, again, I'd like to share the nice statistics that Mr. DeSantis keeps track of for us. And then you all know he's doing something. But so I like
That's
to
what he's
share.
doing right now. He's working.
He's getting ready to send out that personnel list already. 299 jobs have been posted since July 1st of this school year. So that's how many jobs we've posted since the beginning of this school term. We currently have 6 elementary positions posted. We do not have any middle school positions posted, which means all of those positions are filled currently. And we have 1 high school position currently posted. So we're in a pretty good position there with our professional positions. And again, I want to thank Mr. DeSantis for keeping track of that stuff and sharing it with the board. So the last item under personnel is our newly added, at the request of the board, our new positions list. Superintendent recommends that the board approve the list as presented.
So moved.
Second.
Oh, go ahead.
All right. Board members, any questions? Hearing none, all in favor of the new positions list as presented signify by aye. Aye. Opposed, the same. Superintendent, do you have anything else? The next board meeting's a week from tonight.
Tomorrow night.
Tomorrow night's election.
No, a week from tomorrow night.
Oh, a week.
Next
Sorry.
Tuesday.
I missed the special meeting on.
I'm just
I'm
trying
going
to help you
city
out
council
here.
tomorrow night.
This
The,
is
uh, In a week from tomorrow
I
night.
think you
Thank
got
you,
confused
Madam
because
Walker.
we have a misprint. It says Monday, November 15th. So it's Tuesday, November 15th. I think that's why you got confused.
All right, with that clarification, we're adjourned.
Thank you, board members.
All right, thank you.
Hey, Mr. Ron, so are we going to do our social emotional academic presentation next week?